I have made a tier list using every single popular deck, plus the new strategies from Age of Overlord. My guy, we've been doing a lot of testing with these new Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I gotta say, be ready to shake up what's happening right now. Of course, big dog, as you already know, the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh is just happening. This is gonna be the perfect guide for you to pick a deck or know what decks to beat. Bang! Let's go ahead and start this tier list with everyone's favorite Yu-Gi-Oh deck, Branded. My guy, it's Branded with a big B. Branded has been consistently one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, and to be honest, even though it doesn't get any new support, I don't think that really changes. And the reason why is because Mirage 8, the Ice Blade Dragon, still is as strong as it's ever been before. Its properties to be able to banish monsters, but also punish your opponent for being able to get rid of it, allows you to stay in tempo, and this is the best deck to be able to summon Mirage 8. Now, unfortunately, for being able to consistently summon that big body boss monster, you have to pay a price. You're pretty much always locked into fusion summoning, and with Age of Overlord, we get some new powerful Link and Xyz monsters, as well as some other cards that allow you to go into other different mechanics. With that being said, starting off the format, I would say that Chimera is a better deck than Branded. I would actually say it's one of the best decks in the game. The Branded engine could be used in Chimera to make the deck more consistent, but Chimera does have the flexibility to be able to use other mechanics like Link summoning and Xyz summoning, something that Age of Overlord does bring to us. Also, the new monster Infernoble, the king of mythical phantom beasts. Crazy! I think this is the set where Chimera really does solidify itself as a top Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Diabellstar as a pure Yu-Gi-Oh deck is not bad. Hey, my guy, this deck kind of cook. She be spinning and turning the wheels and summon other cards. I'm simping for Diabellstar, am I? The Sinful Spoil engine actually does give you quite a bit of removal as well as the summon of other monsters. I would personally say right now, this strategy has mad potential. It's going to be heavily reliant on what we get in the future, maybe in Phantom Nightmare and other sets to come, but Diabellstar could maybe branch off as an engine deck and be one of the more powerful decks in the game. Dinos, my dog, you already know how we doing. I'm saying, big dog, you Dino what you talking about. If you put dinos any lower than a real challenge. My boys, I'm trying out here. The new Dino support in Transcendosaurus Exoraptor is support by name. My guy, I'm not even gonna cap. I am struggling with this Dino support just as much as some players are struggling to get a girlfriend. With no miscellaneous errors off the ban list and the deck still having the exact same problems, I think that it's a real challenge, though a great Dino player can go places with this deck. Dragons, my boy. Dragons ironically didn't directly benefit from Age of Overlord, except for two cards. There's Star Slayer, Typhon, Star Crisis. Who's gonna say that card's name? Seriously, my guy, what are we gonna name him? We can't even call him Fake Zeus. This card can actually help dragons in a pinch because there's a lot of dragon monsters you would probably want to the graveyard, and this card can help you get them there. Then there's SP Little Knight. That card's like crazy for this deck. It makes IP Masquerena a lot stronger. If I had to put it somewhere, still a top Yu-Gi-Oh deck. My guys, dragons just never die. They multiply. Earthbound and Immortal got some ridiculous support outside of Age of Overlord. My guy, when is the rest of the Earthbound and Immortal support gonna come? We got one card here. Now, I do expect this listing of Earthbound to change in the very near future because Earthbound actually is a lot better than what people are giving it credit, but with one fusion monster that it's a fusion monster. Earthbound Servant Geo Gremlin is exactly what it sounds right now. Nothing but a gremlin card. Unfortunately, that support may not do nothing right now, but pendulums? My guy, did I ever tell you I was a pendulum connoisseur? I'm really not, but what I'm excited for is Xyz the Pendulum. This card's not an Xyz monster, nor is it a pendulum, but what it is a very powerful Link 3 monster that helps facilitate the game. I think pendulums are on the right track and they have a ton of potential right now. And the best thing about Age of Overlord is that Xyz the Pendulum isn't where it stops. There's actually some really cool cards that you could be playing inside of your pendulum deck, and I'm gonna say pendulum loosely because there are so many strategies that gain so much potential. I'm really excited to see which one's gonna come out as a very powerful deck. You thought the flu took a backseat? Personally, I think Floowandereeze was just hibernating to spread its wings. It's still one of the most toxic decks in the game, big dog. Also, ironically, Doomsday Star is a card that Floowandereeze players can use All they have to do is just normal summon and not use an effect, and boom, they can special summon. Ironically, one of the most hated decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Did technically get stronger, and as long as Harpy's Featherstorm exists, being able to shut off all monster effects, this deck will still be probably pretty good. The Horus strategy, the sarcophagus monsters. My guy, this is exactly what we've been waiting for. Being able to summon Horus of the Black Flame level 8 to our side of the field, easy. What do you mean this isn't what this deck does? What do you mean it doesn't have anything to do with the Horus monsters? What do you mean it only sends Horus monsters to the graveyard? What? Okay guys, hear me out. I don't think that the Horus cards are actually incredibly good. As a strategy by itself, this deck will probably never amount to anything. Kind of reminds me what my mom said. But as a complementary strategy to some really powerful Yu-Gi-Oh decks, I think that's his best bet. Infernoble did not only get 1, not 2, but 3 different support cards that do not say Infernoble. They got the equipped spell in Angel Ring, which if you keep making busted equipped spells, I promise you Infernoble will use them. But I think what's really the talk of the town is Kin the Dragon Warrior and Jin the Diamond Tiger. Those 2 cards are not only warrior monsters, but they also allow you to be able to hand loop your opponent or get cards that you need from your deck to your hand. And they also enable cards like Triple Tactics Talent and Triple Tactics Thrust. Bro, you didn't even have to give them that many effects. The fact that they were warrior monsters that can summon other warrior monsters already made Infernoble players happy. Now they have another way to play around hand traps. I think this deck easily moves to one of the next best decks in the entire game. Big dog, you better watch out for the Infernobles, my guy. They might just light your ass up. You would be amazed on where would I put Labyrinth. The interesting thing about Labyrinth is how powerful is Unchained, because that deck's really, really good against Labyrinth. If Unchained somehow slows down, whether it be players playing other decks or players actually countering Unchained. All right, guys, let's be real. The second part's probably not happening. I haven't even put out a meta counter guide. Y'all can't read. That part ain't happening. I think that Labyrinth could be way better. For right now, even with new Arius the Labyrinth Butler, I would say Labyrinth just has mad potential. Labyrinth is actually one of those cool decks that kind of keep the game in check. If you start disrespecting back row, Labyrinth comes up and does Labyrinth things. But the moment that you start respecting certain things, Labyrinth becomes a way more manageable deck. Actually, sometimes even a fun deck to play against. Where I'm putting Manadium, my boys. I know the boys that love to play with balls have been waiting all day for me to tell you where would I put Manadiums. My guy, I'm not gonna judge you. I gotta say, right now, Manadium probably is one of the better decks in the game. Now look, taking my haterisms aside, because I'm not the man to play with balls, I think Manadium is a way better deck because of Visa Samsara and its 1-card combos, but even Manadium Trusukta. My guy, you can't have 2 sus cards in your deck. 2 sus cards! Personally, these cards do not solve the Manadium problem, which is running through your whole extra deck, meaning that if your opponent actually breaks your board, you lose. But it does allow you to get into those power combos really consistently. Do not be surprised if by the time we make another tier list, Manadium's lower. Nouvelles, my boy. They got a new trap card. The problem is a trap card. But on top of that, if we're going to be so real, Nouvelles was already a deck that was incredibly struggling, mainly because it just simply doesn't do enough. One thing I will give it though is that it is an incredibly cheap Yu-Gi-Oh deck, so unfortunately I might have to play it for a series. I would say that Nouvelles, the deck that cooks, 100% experimental. Nouvelles is a deck that seems to do a lot of crazy things, but the problem with it is that it seems that it's really easy to interrupt. It's a deck that easily got the big cook potential though, so I would say we gotta experiment for it a little longer. Otic actually got more than 1 new support card. My guy, not only is there Nephthys, the Age Overlord, there's also Invasive Species Alien, because normally in Reptiles, you'll play the Odotics, the Aliens, and whatever else you can get a hold of. I would say that the deck is 100% experimental. It almost has the exact same problem as Nouvelles. It's a deck that does have pop-off potential, but the problem is that once you get stopped, and it's not hard to stop you, you're in a terrible spot. Purrely has not gotten better with Age of Overlord. To be honest, I think Purrely drops from being one of the better decks in the game to just being a deck with mad potential. And the reason why Purrely is so hard to play right now is because players are playing the White Woman. Goddess of the Underworld just so happens to be a really good card right now, and just so happens to be a really good answer to Purrely Noir. I think that smart players can play around Purrely pretty easy, and bad players, well, they have a bad time with everything, right? Rescue-Ace, because of the new Diabellstar Sinful Spoil cards, I think is one of the best decks in the game. Now having complete access to Rescue Hydrate, crazy. And what makes it even better is that you do not have to use your normal summon if you're using the Diabellstar engine, meaning by the time that you use your Rescue-Ace Hydrant, you can normal summon a monster, which makes it untargetable. I would still say that Red Dragon Archfiend decks are experimental. We don't have the support that we need to take this deck to the next level, but you always have to watch out, because anytime a Dark Dragon Synchro monster gets introduced, you know this deck is doing the Birdman hand rub. For so long, I've actually said the biggest problem with Sharks is that it does nothing to distinguish itself from the Yumi deck in Marine Cess. Holy God, it finally did something. Sharks are going to take an even deeper Exceed approach, using the new Exceed Armor card. Exceed Armor Fortress is a crazy good card. It allows the Shark players to be able to make some really fearsome boards, as well as search their Exceed spell and trap cards that they need to be able to make some crazy combos. I would 100% put this deck in mad potential, because I do think that it does have some potential going forward. Anytime you see 1 and 2 card combos, you got to be like, yeah, that's a good deck. Shinobirds, if you guys want my honest opinion, it's probably one of the worst ritual decks I've ever seen. My guy, you do all of that for nothing. It really hurts me, because I genuinely like Spirit Yu-Gi-Oh decks, but unfortunately, Shinobird, it does a whole lot of nothing for nothing. I still think that overall Spright is one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, but we might have to address how we're gonna play Spright. I'm not gonna leave any spoilers, but I think that there may be a deck to overtake a pure Spright build, maybe even a Furhire build, or even any other Spright variant. I would say that Tier List has already solidified itself as one of the best decks in the game. Age of Overlord not only makes it better with the Horus cards, it allows you to be able to fix your hands and dig deeper inside of your deck. Holy crap, this is modern day Lightsworn, my friends. My guy, you may hate me for when I say this, but I think this is the honest truth. TG seemed like a worse Synchron deck from Duelist Nexus, and a way worse Manadium deck from Duelist Nexus, ironically. I think TG Glaive Blaster is a good Yu-Gi-Oh card, but most builds really focus around summoning Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Calamity, which this is like one of the worst decks to do it, my boy. Now, the good thing is that there's probably room for recovery with TGs, but to be honest, the TG cards by themselves, they kind of suck. So like, why play this over Manadium or Synchron? Tistina, my boy. Wait, hold on. There's no tits here. Tistina got some support, and it's I hate how Konami really did us with Tistina, because it seemed like a deck that could be really, really good, and then the next wave of support lets us down. It reminds me when you see that one kid playing sports for his father's love, but you can tell that he's literally only playing for that. He lets you down. I know sometimes I'll be cutting deep. I'll try to reel it back. Your dad still loves you. At least you got one. Unchained still has to be considered one of the most powerful decks in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh card game. This deck is still ridiculous, and even with no support from the set, it's going to find a way to still be one of the most dominant decks. I think players are going to start relying on decks that can make monsters like Abyss Dweller because of decks like Purrely, Unchained, Manadium to some extent, but then you're probably going to need a little bit more, and that's exactly where Vanquish Soul comes in. Vanquish Soul gets new support in Age of Overlord that makes it incredibly good. Vanquish Soul Jailon being able to switch battle positions of monsters is hell of underrated. I love that secret effect, but his best effect is allowing you to search your Vanquish Soul Raisin, and we need Vanquish Soul Raisin as a Vanquish Soul player. And lastly is the secret deck that I was actually talking about. I think Watts actually have some potential. Reading the Watt cards, they seem like bad, to be honest. And then you remember that the Spright monsters are Thunder. I think that Spright Watt can actually be incredibly good. Use the Spright cards to be able to stop your opponent, and the Watt cards to be able to attack directly, Synchro Summon, and potentially go for game. And my boy, if you want to be toxic, you can mix in a little bit of Runic. Runic the game. And that's all that I have for my best decks tier list post Age of Overlord. I want you guys to let me know, where do you think I messed up? Where do you think I did right? Where do you think I did wrong? Also, if you want to see more amazing content, I want you to do me a favor. Go ahead and check out these other videos. And be sure to like this video, as I'll catch you on the next one.